Let's be brutally honest for a second. Most people do not understand economics. They think it is about numbers. It is not. Economics is biology. It is about energy transfer. It is about who eats and who gets eaten. And politicians, they thrive on your ignorance. They know that if they wrap a massive tax hike in a flag and call it patriotism, you won't just accept it, you will cheer for it. You will applaud while they pick your pocket. It is the oldest trick in the book, a sleight of hand performed on a national scale. And you are falling for it again. You are being played by a narrative that values slogans over your survival.
For the last year, you have been living in a curated fantasy, a hallucination. The narrative was designed for 10-second sound bites. We slap tariffs on the world and China pays for our greatness. It was a brilliant sales pitch. It made you feel strong. It made you feel like America was finally winning. But the first rule of the real world, the cold, unforgiving world of bank accounts and grocery bills, is that there is no such thing as a free lunch. The bill has finally come due. And surprise, it is addressed to you, not to Beijing, not to some faceless billionaire, to your kitchen table.
The New York Federal Reserve just released a report on February 12, 2026. It serves as a cold, wet towel to the face of every American who believed the hype. We aren't winning a trade war. We are funding a government experiment with our own grocery money. The Liberty Street Economics Report is clear, devoid of political spin. It states that the cost of these 2025 tariffs hasn't stayed abroad. It didn't stop at the border. It didn't punish the CCP. It walked right past the customs agents, took an Uber to your suburbs, and sat down at your dinner table.
While pundits on TV scream about American strength, the actual data shows a massive, regressive tax being funneled from the middle class directly into the Treasury. It is the greatest heist in modern economic history, and it is being done with your applause. You are cheering for the very mechanism that is dismantling your purchasing power. You are thanking the executioner for sharpening the axe. Let's look at the math that should be on the front page of every newspaper, but isn't, because math doesn't sell ads. Rage sells ads. When a 25% or 60% tariff is placed on an imported part, the foreign company doesn't just sigh and send a check to Washington. That is not how global capitalism works. In the real world, the predator adapts. They do one of two things. They raise their prices to cover the tax, or they stop selling to us entirely, creating a supply shortage that, you guessed it, raises prices anyway. You are the one financing the slogans. Every time you tap your card, a portion of that debt is sent directly to the Treasury to pay for a trade war that was promised to be free. According to the NY Fed, American businesses and consumers are now bearing 90% of the total cost of these 2025 tariffs. 90%. Out of every dollar collected by the government at the border, 90 cents came from a domestic source. It came from an American business. It came from an American wallet. It came from you. The notion that a foreign nation pays a tariff is an economic illiteracy that has been weaponized against you. It is a sales tax, it is a consumption tax, and it is a tax on your efficiency.
Foreign exporters? They've only absorbed a measly 5%. They barely feel a scratch. They are laughing at us while American firms are bleeding out. This isn't a trade victory. It is a domestic tax hike disguised as foreign policy. It is a masquerade, a theater production where you are the only one paying for the ticket, and the ticket price is your standard of living. When the state tells you they are fighting for you, look at who is bleeding. The foreign companies are simply pivoting to other markets while you are trapped behind a wall.
When you slap a 25% tariff on steel, you aren't punishing a foreign billionaire. You are punishing a contractor in Ohio who needs a new truck. You are punishing a student in California who needs a laptop. You are punishing the single mother who needs a washing machine. This is the pass-through effect. If a company that makes washing machines in Michigan has to pay 20% more for imported steel, they aren't going to just take a hit to their profits. They are survival machines. They pass the pain to you. If they eat the cost, they go out of business. So they pass the pain to you. They raise the price of the washing machine. You go to the store, you see a higher price tag, and you think inflation is just crazy. No, inflation didn't just happen by accident. This price hike was a deliberate policy choice made in Washington.
You are paying the tariff. You are the bag holder. Every washing machine sold in Michigan is now a revenue-generating asset for the federal government, and you are the one signing the check. The Yale Budget Lab and the Tax Foundation have done the autopsy. It is an annual tax of $1,400 to $3,800 on every single American household. That is not making America great. That is an eviction notice for the middle class. While the Treasury is bragging about record tariff revenue, they are essentially bragging about how much money they successfully took from your bank account without calling it an income tax. It is a wealth extraction machine running 24/7, fueled by your hard-earned money. Think about it. That $3,800 isn't just a number. That is your family vacation. That is your emergency fund. That is the transmission repair you've been putting off. It is gone, vaporized into the black hole of government spending, all to prop up a trade policy that simply isn't working. It is wealth destruction on a massive scale, silent and invisible. It is the theft of your future, one grocery bill at a time. And the worst part is, they have convinced you that this pain is a badge of honor. When the tariffs hit, the smart money tried to pivot. Capital is like water. It finds the path of least resistance. Companies shifted production to Vietnam, Malaysia, and Mexico. They thought they could escape the trap. But the government wasn't interested in fixing the problem. They were interested in the revenue. They weren't going to let the stream dry up. This is the nature of the state. It does not seek solutions. It seeks control. It saw the pivot, and it adjusted its sights. Enter the 40% transshipment penalty introduced in mid-2025. This created the logistical shell game. If a product uses components that originated in China but were assembled in another country, it now triggers a massive 40% tax at the US border. This hasn't brought manufacturing back to the Rust Belt. It has just added layers of expensive, soul-crushing bureaucracy. It has turned every cargo container into a legal battlefield where the only winners are the lawyers and the tax collectors. Now, every single shipment sitting at our ports has to be audited by expensive lawyers to prove its origin. Who pays for those auditors? Who pays for the legal fees when a shipment is stuck at the port of Long Beach for 3 weeks? You do. Every cent of those legal fees and every day of delay is baked into the final price of the product on the shelf. We are paying 40% more for the privilege of making our own businesses less competitive. It is an act of economic self-mutilation. It's not America first, it's efficiency last. We are building an economic wall around ourselves, and we are paying for the bricks. The global supply chain isn't a series of Legos. It is a biological web. When you tear one part of that web, the whole organism bleeds. The specialized knowledge that took 40 years to build cannot be replaced by a stroke of a pen in a single year. We are tearing down a cathedral and expecting to live in the ruins. Let's look at the automotive industry. Modern cars are global products. A Ford truck might be assembled in Detroit, but its sensors, its steel chassis, and its semiconductors come from a dozen different countries. When you slap a 25% tariff on steel, the cost of manufacturing a truck in America spikes immediately. This is not a theory. It is a line item on a manufacturing budget that forces a choice: raise prices or fire workers. Foreign automakers laugh as they gain a massive advantage. Then look at tech. The 40% transshipment rule is a death sentence for hardware startups. If you can't prove every single capacitor in your device didn't come from a Chinese factory, you're hit with the penalty. This doesn't encourage made in USA tech. We don't have the fabrication plants yet. It takes 10 years to build them. No, this encourages tech companies to move their entire headquarters to Singapore or Dubai to avoid the US market altogether. We are literally taxing the future out of our own borders. And agriculture? The heartland is bleeding. While we tax electronics, China and the EU are retaliating. They are targeting our farmers with surgical precision. American soybeans and corn are rotting in silos because our export markets are evaporating. Brazil and Argentina are stepping in. Once you lose a trade partner, you don't just get them back. They build new relationships. They move on.
We are sacrificing our most productive sectors on the altar of a failed industrial policy.
Now, let's talk about energy, the elephant in the room. The green transition relies on components from abroad. When you place a 60% tariff on solar panels and EV batteries, you aren't saving the planet. You are just making electricity more expensive for every American household. You are raising the cost of living at the foundational level. High energy prices act exactly like a tax. When gas goes up, the cost of everything else follows. For you, the inflation is real. The pain is real.
This is the most cynical part of the heist. Mainstream news glosses over it because it's too technical. All through 2025, you were told interest rates would fall. Just wait, they said. But here we are in February 2026, and the Fed is paralyzed. Rates are stuck between 3.5% and 3.75%. Why? Because tariffs are inflationary by design. The Fed cannot cut rates while inflation is artificially high. You are being squeezed from both ends by the same policy. You pay more at the store and you pay more to the bank. Every month your mortgage payment doesn't drop is another month you are directly subsidizing this failed trade war with your home equity. It is a wealth extraction machine. If you think this is temporary, look at history. Look back to 1930 and the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. It turned a standard recession into the Great Depression. We have dusted off the playbook that broke the world nearly a century ago. The average U.S. tariff rate has hit 16.9%, the highest since 1930. We are sleepwalking into a ravine. The government might collect an extra $200 billion, but the cost to the economy is projected to be $1.6 trillion over the next decade. They're selling you a $200 billion win while costing you $1.6 trillion in losses. If your financial advisor suggested an investment that cost you $8 for every $1 you made, you would call him a fraud. Yet this is the national strategy. Consumer confidence is wavering because these strong economy headlines don't match the reality of a $7 box of cereal. You can feel it, can't you? The great tariff heist is in full swing. They are taking your money at the border, at the register, and at the bank. And what happens next? Isolation. Every tariff we impose accelerates the demise of the dollar as the global reserve currency. When demand for dollars dries up, hyperinflation becomes a possibility.
Consider the housing market. It is frozen. Lumber, steel, and copper have skyrocketed due to tariffs. Mortgage rates remain high due to tariff-induced inflation. The American dream is being strangled by the very policies that claim to protect it. You are renting your lifestyle from a system designed to keep you a tenant forever. You are being priced out of your own country by people who claim to be putting you first.
So, what do? Do you curl up and wait for the government to fix it? No, that is what the prey does. The predator adapts. The slayer analyzes the board and moves. In a zero-sum game, when the state takes more, you must keep less, unless you change your position, unless you stop being the consumer and start being the owner. In this environment, cash is trash. Cash is the victim of the theft. You need to stop holding the currency that is being intentionally devalued. You must pivot to assets that benefit from inflation and inefficiency. Hard assets. Things that cannot be printed and cannot be easily taxed at the border. When the supply chain breaks, who wins? The logistics companies, the domestic producers who actually have infrastructure, the raw materials that are in short supply, energy, copper, lithium, gold, Bitcoin. You need to position yourself where the capital is flowing, not where it is being extracted. Stop being the prey. Start being the predator. Align your portfolio with the bottleneck. Don't bet on the flow of goods. Bet on the blockage, because the blockage is the policy. If the government makes it impossible to import cheap goods, the companies inside the border are kings. Domestic manufacturers with established supply lines will survive. Everyone else is just fuel for the fire. You need to be the one holding the match, not the one being burned.
Look at Bitcoin. It is the only asset truly outside the system.
It is a hedge against the stupidity of politicians. When they devalue the dollar to pay for their trade wars, Bitcoin doesn't care. It is pure math in a world of fuzzy logic. It is the only escape hatch from a system designed to eat you alive. It is the alpha in a world of declining betas.
Look at gold. Central banks are buying gold at record paces. They know what is coming. They are de-dollarizing. If the central banks are buying gold, why aren't you? Do not listen to what they say. Watch what they do. Gold is the ultimate insurance policy against the arrogance of politicians. They are preparing for a world where the dollar is no longer king. You should too.
Look at real estate, but not just any real estate. Productive farmland, industrial warehousing. These assets will appreciate as the dollar depreciates. They are the bedrock of wealth. While paper assets can be vaporized by a change in policy, a physical acre of land remains. It is the ultimate defense against the heist. Stop listening to the slogans. Stop cheering for policies that pick your pocket. 90% of the burden is sitting on your kitchen table. If your grocery bill is up and your mortgage isn't moving, you aren't winning. You are the subsidy. You are the prey. The theft is happening in plain sight. Are you going to keep applauding while they do it? Are you going to be the victim or the slayer? The middle class is being systematically drained. Every extra dollar you pay for utilities is not just market fluctuations. It is the intended outcome of a global game where you were never meant to win. You are the battery that powers the state, and they are draining you to zero. The Great Tariff Heist is just one chapter in a much longer book of wealth extraction. Wake up from the dream of government protection. The only person looking out for your financial future is you. The slayer doesn't wait for permission. The slayer builds their own fortress. You need to stop being a participant in the heist and start being the one who escapes it. Secure your future in the real world of hard assets. Fight back with math and cold-blooded strategy. I am the zero-sum slayer, and I am telling you to wake up. The game is already in play. The board has been set. If you don't know who the sucker at the table is, it's you. But it doesn't have to be. You can choose to see the heist for what it is. You can choose to stop applauding your own destruction. The future belongs to those who see the math through the smoke. Stay sharp, because in a zero-sum game, the only thing that matters is who is left standing when the music stops. And the music is about to get very, very quiet. I am the zero-sum slayer, and the hunt is just beginning.